Have you ever met someone who seemed wise beyond their years? A child who was quieter, more observant, and carried a sense of responsibility that felt almost out of place? This is the story of Arham, but it's also the story of millions who share his invisible burden. As a young boy, Arham wasn't like the other kids who ran freely, their laughter echoing through the playground. His world was different. It was a world of hushed tones, of tiptoeing around adult problems, of learning to read the room before he could even read a book. He learned that his own needs, his own childish outbursts were secondary. There were bigger things to worry about. So he packed away his emotions, one by one, into a box he kept hidden deep inside. The tears he wanted to cry, the frustrations he wanted to scream, the simple, carefree joy he wished he could feel. They were all tucked away, suppressed. He learned to be the calm in someone else's storm, the quiet support in the background. Years passed, and this quiet boy grew into a quiet young man. On the surface, he was the model of stability. He was responsible, dependable, and incredibly intuitive. Friends would come to him for advice, marveling at how he always seemed to understand their pain without them saying a word. He could sense their sadness, their anxiety, their unspoken fears. He became an emotional anchor for everyone around him. What they didn't see was that his own anchor was dragging along the ocean floor, collecting wounds and rust. Psychologists have a term for this phenomenon: forced maturity. It happens when a child is pushed into an adult role far too early. They are forced to skip the crucial emotional developmental stages that build a healthy sense of self, of identity, joy, and trust. Think of childhood as building a house. You need a strong foundation of safety and emotional expression, then you build the walls of identity, and finally, the roof of independence. A child experiencing forced maturity is handed the roof and told to hold it up before the foundation has even been laid. They become strong, yes, but that strength is a survival mechanism, not a sign of genuine growth. These children often become profound empaths. Because they spent their formative years decoding the complex emotions of the adults around them to ensure their own safety, they develop an almost supernatural ability to understand others' pain. They can walk into a room and immediately feel the emotional temperature. They can see the hurt behind a forced smile. But this superpower comes at a cost. While they are masters at understanding others, they are often complete strangers to their own feelings. Expressing their own pain feels foreign, selfish, or even dangerous. Their emotional vocabulary for themselves is limited to, "I'm fine," even when they are crumbling inside. Their sense of responsibility is another hallmark. They are the ones who remember birthdays, who organize events, who make sure everyone is taken care of. They carry the weight of the world on their shoulders, believing that if they let go, everything will fall apart. But beneath this hypercompetence is a deep, unfulfilled craving. It's the longing for the care they never received. It's the yearning for someone to ask them if they're okay, for someone to say, "You can rest now, I've got this." This constant state of giving, without ever learning how to receive, leads to a profound sense of exhaustion and loneliness, even when surrounded by people who love them. Arham's story is not a rare, isolated case. It's a silent epidemic happening all around us. Maybe you can see it now. Think back to your own life. Was there a quiet kid in your class who never laughed too loudly, who seemed to observe more than they participated? Or perhaps a teenager you know who acts more like a 40-year-old, burdened with worries about bills and family drama instead of homework and friendships? Maybe you see this person in your office, the colleague who never complains and takes on everyone else's work. Or maybe, just maybe, you were that child. Maybe you're recognizing a younger version of yourself in Arham's story. The child who learned that their needs were an inconvenience, that their voice was too loud, that their presence should be small. The truth that society often misses is this: children who are forced to grow up too fast don't actually grow up in a healthy way. They just learn to survive. They build a fortress around their vulnerable inner child. Maturity becomes their armor, a heavy suit they wear to protect themselves from the world. Kindness becomes their shield, a way to deflect attention from their own needs by focusing on others. And silence. Silence becomes their second skin. It's the language they are most fluent in, the space where they feel safest because in silence, no one can hurt them. But in silence, no one can help them either. They become performers in their own lives, playing the part of the mature one, the strong one, the old soul. But backstage, when the curtain falls and they are alone, the performance ends, the armor comes off, and the child they locked away so long ago is still there, huddled in the corner, waiting to be seen, waiting to be heard, waiting to be loved. This is why, as adults, they might struggle with anxiety, depression, or a persistent feeling of emptiness. They might have successful careers, loving partners, and a life that looks perfect on the outside, but inside, they feel like an imposter, constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. They never learned that it's okay to be messy, to be vulnerable, to simply be. But what happens when that child, now a full-grown adult, finally reaches a point where they can no longer keep up the performance? What happens when the constant pressure of survival eases, when life finally slows down, and they are left alone, face to face with the child they buried all those years ago? That is where the real story begins. It's not a story about growing up anymore. It's a story about healing. It's the journey of turning around, walking back into that fortress, and reaching out a hand to that forgotten child. It's about learning to say, I see you, I hear you, you are safe now. This journey is terrifying. It means confronting the pain, the anger, and the grief that were suppressed for so long. It means unlearning the survival mechanisms that have defined your entire existence. Healing means learning a new language, the language of your own emotions. It's like learning to walk again. At first, it's clumsy and frightening. You might stumble, you might fall. The first time you try to say no to someone, your heart might pound in your chest. The first time you allow yourself to cry without feeling guilty, it might feel like a dam breaking. But with each step, you get stronger. You learn that your needs are valid. You learn that your voice deserves to be heard. You learn that vulnerability is not weakness, but the highest form of courage. For Arham, this journey began with a simple question from a therapist. What did you like to do when you were a child? He couldn't answer. He had no memory of carefree play, of hobbies, of simple joy. His healing began by giving himself permission to discover those things as an adult. He started small. He bought a set of crayons and a coloring book. He took a walk in the park without a destination. He allowed himself to be unproductive, to be playful, to simply exist without a purpose. He learned to parent himself, to give the inner child the reassurance, the praise, and the unconditional love he never received. He learned that his worth was not tied to his usefulness to others. If this story resonates with you, know that you are not alone. Your strength got you this far, but you don't have to carry the armor forever. Healing is possible. It is the brave and beautiful process of reclaiming the parts of yourself you were forced to leave behind. It is the journey of finally, truly, coming home to yourself. It's about giving that child inside you the one thing they always deserved, a chance to just be a kid. Thank you so much for watching and for holding space for this important conversation. If this resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more content that explores the human experience. Your support helps us create a community where stories like this can be shared and understood. Take care and be kind to yourself.